good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you to Care Edge webinar on health insurance sector, and we have panelists at our end who will share great deep insights also. So now I would request Mr. Sanjay Kumar Agarwal, Senior Director Care Ratings, who is the moderator for the session, to introduce the panelists we have. We are also awaiting another panelist who will be coming in soon. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce the panelists. We welcome you all to this webinar on health insurance and what are the bright spots despite the pandemic blues. So we have Mr. Rakesh Jain, who is the CEO of Reliance General Insurance. Prior to Reliance General Insurance, he was the Director Corporate Center and CFO at ICICI Lombard and was driving the key functions there. Rakesh has over 25 years of experience across leadership functions at ITC, ICICI, and Reliance. And like me, he's also a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and the Institute of Cost Accountants of India. Rakesh was recognized as Best CEO of the Year in the financial services sector in 2020. He is an avid reader and a technology enthusiast. We also have Mr. C. Anil Kumar. Anil is the director and CFO of Niva Bupa Health Insurance Company, which was earlier known as Max Bupa Health. He has an in-depth knowledge of IFRS and US GAAP, and he is responsible for finance, administration, and procurement functions at Niva Bupa. He has experience of over 2 decades and has served as CFO in Exide. He's also worked in Bharti Airtel, Caltex Lubricant, Adidas, and Telstra in the past. His expertise lies in core finance, investment operations, data management, procurement, and corporate services. He is a fellow member of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India and the CPA of US. He is a BCom graduate from the University of Madras. With this, I would like my colleague Saurabh to take over the proceedings and give our first views.
Thank you, Sanjay. Good evening. The presentation, while beginning, as Sanjay has mentioned, is on the health insurance sector, which has been a bright spot amidst the pandemic. The presentation will cover state of the industry, along with the rising importance of health insurance within non-life sector itself, the impact of COVID on claims and profitability and outlook for the industry. As the COVID pandemic struck in March last year, it did highlight the importance of health insurance, but also led to elevated claims which have dented profitability. However, even before the pandemic, the health insurance sector has been growing rapidly, and its share within the non-life insurance industry has been on an upswing. But it should be noted that despite this increase, the domestic sector has a relatively smaller share within the non-life as compared to some of its international counterparts. Further, we'll also see the trend in the movement of claims and premium over the recent few quarters for a sample of top companies, which account for around 85% of the health premium. Now, moving on to the next slide, we can clearly see on a quarterly basis how have the claims premium and the claims moved. The COVID pandemic, which came in inopportune time when India was showing some signs of recovery, while the pandemic and the initial lockdown, health insurance became the most valuable segment for non-life insurance. The prospect of hospitalization and high medical costs increased awareness and the need for health insurance, and drove especially individuals to sign up for health insurance. As can be seen in the chart, health insurance gross direct premium has seen a positive growth over all the quarters. This growth was largely driven by the individual policies. In the same vein, claims too were low in the initial stage given the lockdown, but have witnessed a consistently growing trend throughout the pandemic period as the cases increased rapidly. In the first quarter of the current fiscal, claims witnessed a significant spike as the second wave of COVID pandemic claims came into the insurers. Despite the second wave subsiding, in the second quarter, claims have witnessed an upswing due to some of non-COVID and some carryover of earlier claims also taking place. If you look at the next slide, this chart shows the combined ratio for the three different types of companies in the segment: public, private, and SAHIs, that is standalone health players. Combined ratio expresses the claims plus commissions and operating expenses by the premiums. Number lower than 100, which is desirable, shows that companies making underwriting profits. While please do note that the chart is inverted. We can see that the combined ratio for all three different types has been more than 100, depicted by the black line, for most quarters since the fourth quarter of FY20 due to the pandemic. In fact, if you see, combined ratio was more than 160% between the third quarter last year and the first quarter this year. However, we can see that relatively private companies and SAHIs have performed better than public companies. However, the combined ratio for all segments has improved in the most recent quarter. Pandemic has waned a bit, although we need to still see how the current variant plays out. Moving on to the historic, where we will see the historical rise of the health insurance segment. If you look at the chart on the left, which tracks the growth of the health insurance, we can see that it has grown faster than the overall non-life segment. Health insurance premiums have grown at a compounded annual growth rate of around 18% in the 14 to 21 period, higher than the overall non-life growth industry, which grew at around 14%. Consequently, moving to the right, the pie chart shows the increase in health share of health within non-life from 25% to 32% in the same period. In fact, this for the current half of the current fiscal has increased even further to over 35%. This has actually led to health outpacing the motor segment to become the largest segment in non-life in the current fiscal. If you look at the next slide, it shows that this growth, as has been highlighted earlier, has been due to the premium incomes of private and SAHIs. If you look at the chart on the left, starting from a lower base, SAHIs have grown at around 32% CAGR between 14 to 21, while private companies grew at around 18.5% CAGR, which is in line with the growth of the overall health insurance segment. Some of the key growth drivers have included product focus, which enabled them to cater better to customer requirements, as well as a more focus on the relatively profitable retail business. If you look at the chart on the right, we can observe that in the fast-growing market, SAHI shares increased markedly, while private companies too have held generally onto their gains, or in fact, some have gained market share. But some public sector companies have lost market share during this period due to various constraints faced by them. While looking at the domestic market, now if we compare the domestic opportunity to the global opportunity, we can see that globally health insurance is around half of the non-life pie. That is, if you look at the chart, we can see that health in the US is a 55% share of non-life, while France and Switzerland have close to 50% share, compared to India's 30% share, highlighting the potential opportunity present even if we just reach up to international standards. This is also driven by the chart on the next slide, where we can see that the out-of-pocket expenses as a percent of current health expenses in India is at a quite high of 63% vis-a-vis the funded exposure. We can see that India, this exposure in India is significantly higher to the world's average of around 18%, and the US is 11%. This shows that consumers are paying more out of pocket as compared to relying on the insurance payouts. Hence, given the pandemic and the rising medical inflation, this higher out-of-pocket expenses is expected to incentivize buyers to acquire higher additional health insurance to offset medical expenses. Now, if you look at the outlook of the sector, we can study that after looking at if we study the historical and the current growth along with the opportunity compared against other countries, we study the outlook where we can see that the demand for health insurance has historically increased during pandemics, even if income growth and savings have come under pressure. For example, in 2003-2004, during the SARS outbreak in China, China Life witnessed significant growth. In addition, from 2013-2014, when MERS spread across Middle East, health insurance too witnessed a significant jump in the same period. While the rise in demand for health insurance during the outbreak of such diseases enhances the awareness of health insurance and the opportunity for health insurers, in the short term, it may also result in a higher claims payout, thereby pressurizing profits. We expect that the gross direct premium for the health insurance to grow at around approximately 26 to 29% in the current fiscal, that is FY22, and is likely to grow around 16 to 18% CAGR over the next 5 years after FY22. The growth would be driven by increasing life expectancy, urbanization, income levels, and most of all, pandemic-led awareness. Furthermore, higher number of individuals subscribing to health insurers, existing customers enhancing their covers, and alongside availability of a wider range of products, depending on the need of customers, is also expected to drive growth. And another factor behind rising premiums would be the possible rate increases, considering the increase in claims ratio in the last fiscal and the current fiscal. The longer-term drivers also include the fact that health insurance in India is highly underpenetrated, and the density and healthcare expenditure as a percent of GDP is quite low. Thank you. I request Sanjay and Nisha to take the presentation forward.
Thank you, Saurabh. May I request Sanjay sir to start with the panel discussion? We are still awaiting our another panelist and he'll be joining us soon. Maybe Mr. Rakesh Jain can share his insights till then.
Yeah, thank you, Saurabh. I think a short presentation. The core themes of the presentation was one, the growth in the health insurance itself. The other was the growth of the health insurance as a percent of the overall general insurance. And third is the profitability, which currently is dented. So, Mr. Rakesh Jain, what is your view on the growth of the premiums for the overall non-life insurance and the health insurance particularly?
So thank you, KRH, and thank you, Sanjay, for calling me today. I think it's the most appropriate topic. Most of us have seen COVID as a life-changing event. Once in a lifetime, maybe we could have thought of facing such a thing. And my sense is that this will shape up many things in times to come. So more than just to say, look, we will grow how much in the next few years, I think the foremost thing which I see is there is a significant awareness on risk. India as a country is a young country. You know, demographically we have been blessed at this stage, and resultantly risk selections or insurance was hence being conflicted as something which is impediment to the spending pattern. I think when COVID happened, it created a lot of people to realize that they need the risk protection, not just to stay healthy, but also to protect their savings. You know, your money in your bank account, if it is lost to the hospitals, I guess you need somebody to help you out. So insurance is going to mature itself in this country. What comparisons you showed in the presentation vis-a-vis, you know, some of the Western countries, Europe and all. I think it's all happened over the years as people matured, as they aged, as economic progress took place. I think people found it prudent for them to come forward and buy insurance to protect themselves, to protect their lifestyles, to get the best in, you know, the standards for healthcare. So my sense is the insurance industry generally has shown a trend of growing 2 to 3 times the GDP growth rate. You know, in the past it has grown well. When the ecosystem comes together, the dots are connected well. Of course, COVID is not out. We are not fully normalized. So my sense is the GI industry is likely to grow around 15% to 18%. And within that, health would be the driver of growth. I guess 20% plus growth rate for health is quite likely. And within the health, it is the individual segment which will drive more. The corporate and the government segment are pillars. They reflect price-led increases, but they don't necessarily bring in too much of an adoption with new people. So I think we are in a fairly healthy space, and I hope that the growth rates are heightened with you know, improved risk awareness.
Okay. So right now we are seeing that the healthcare has a share of 32%, which has actually increased to 37% in the first half, which may be more of a stress buying. But on a long term, do you feel that healthcare would continue to occupy its pride of place in the GI and move to a level of say 45-50% the way we have seen in other countries, especially since India, the social healthcare system is on the weaker side and government healthcare was also slightly fragile. So do you think that the healthcare insurance would probably move to a 45% level?
See, I think certainly it has the potential to reach 40, 45, 50. I only would obviously like to add that this is the game of proportions. It is not about saying that the other segments have matured itself. So, for example, the other big segment, which is motor insurance. One of the reasons motor insurance has lagged in growth in the last year or two was, either the chip issue or basically the, Bharat 4 to Bharat 6, conversion issues, or then for last 2 years, the third-party liability premium has not changed in this country in the COVID backdrop. So I guess in a country where still many people are yet to own a car, own a home, where SMEs and all have just not bought any much of protection, I think it's fair for me to say that all segments are likely to witness, good growth trends. Proportions can be an outcome which in hindsight we will continue to, say, but I don't want to forecast a segment only as an opportunity at this stage. And it is also appropriate to say that almost half the cars which run on roads today run without insurance, even though it is mandatory. So if you simply double up that number, it can be a mammoth increase if compliances really go up or digital compliances go up. In the same way, if you see crop insurance, only about 20% of the farmers are getting crop insurance. The stated intent of the government is to cover. So it has the potential of multiplying 5x if the policy implementation improves. Home insurance is only 1-2% of the homes are barely covered, and that too also structures, contents. Sanjay, you name it, and it can happen in this country with increased digital adoption. I guess access to market, access to products, two-way communication, real-time product experiences. I think there is a tremendous opportunity in this segment. Something which we'll all be glad that is unfolding. Of course, out of an event which we don't want, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of positives will also come.
Okay. So you're saying that we should not look at health as a proportion, but at the health by itself, because other segments will also grow with its own, let's say, opportunities available in India, given the low penetration, the digital adoption, which will enable quick delivery, etc. So that's an interesting point. And given, do you think that the provision for COVID claim is sufficient, or do you think there will be more provisioning coming forward, given that we had so much of an adverse ratio even in the second quarter of this year? So do you think it's been covered, or do you think it would there would be more claims coming forward?
See, you mentioned provision. Provision is in our business generally appropriate because the claims come and they get settled in 10 days, 15 days, 30 days. So you can't have a situation of estimation which remains open for a long period of time. What can obviously happen is if a set of people are today impacted and they come after a few months and make a claim. So overall, the industry has not faced any inadequacy of provision like some, and I think the industry has also given a lot of cashless and benefits, in anticipation that the consumer needs it quickly. So I won't worry too much on the hits, but yes, what hit us more is if the waves don't recede, if Omicron, the way it has been feared in UK, it comes to India with the kind of population we have. I think that then it creates a different set of worry. And I think as a country, we obviously are improving, but we are not in that space also to sometimes contain things quickly. Now, insurance health policy we really see is an all-risk policy. It is not something which excludes. So, people didn't have to worry when COVID was coming because it was an all-risk health policy, so COVID is automatically covered. So my worry would be what are the unknown things which keep coming and coming again and again. Second, medical protocols keeps on changing and medical expenses are no longer cheap. We price our products and all basis a certain premium, but when it is all risk and it hits you first and then you realize the impact, there is no way you can get it right. So I think all this puts us into a bit of a gray area. The insurance company has done a tremendous job for the last 18 months in meeting up all its obligation, and I'm sure you may not have heard any significant public outcry against insurance company, which is a testimony. Over 35,000 crore claims have been paid. 35,000 crores by no means is a small amount of money for an event which was not anticipated. See, if you know something and you can say this was excessive, this was more than what I thought was on. But this is an event which was not priced. None of the products in this market ever had any inclination of pricing an event like this. And SARS and all which you mentioned about happening in China, frankly, fizzled out in no time. So, I think we certainly have an event which is going to shape up many things. And the approach for healthcare and the way we adopt will signify how health insurance plays its logical role in the upcoming evolution.
Okay. What do you think was what was the reinsurers' reaction on the elevated claim? Because as you said, this is something not priced in, not expected, etc. So while I understand the reinsurance is on the lower side for at least the health insurance, but of whatever was there, what was the reaction of the reinsurers?
See, the reaction of the reinsurers at this instance was neutral because they didn't bear any significant health costs. So, but yes, the reinsurers, when they do multiple types of risk models, they have now started to factor pandemic also, which can lead to a lot of disruptions. Let me also extend the question beyond health. See, pandemic has led to a lot of economic activities coming under stress. A lot of large corporations, people, they've lost, their income for without any, significant flood or, fire or earthquake. So generally, the industry is used to having a material damage followed by a consequential loss, which can be loss of profits. In this case, there was no material damage since pandemic is not a necessary inclusion in property policies. Health policies, as I said, is included, but in property it is not. So structurally speaking, people who had to close down their factories and all, they frankly could not recover. It was taken as a business loss and could not be covered by the insurance. And that is worldwide. It is not just about India, it is across the world. So I think in times to come, the debate will be that how do we cover some of these pandemic related, consequential losses in our policies. And there is also a classical debate which is taking place, whether a pandemic is a responsibility of the state or is it a responsibility of commercial insurance. End of the day, if it is commercial insurance, then it needs to be priced and charged. It is not something which can come free or cannot be paid in, hindsight. So I think these are classical debates. Time will only say what kind of balance we'll draw here. But certainly a lot of burning issues to ponder upon as we move on.
Okay. So do you expect the non-COVID claims to rise in FY22, given that a lot of elective surgeries, etc., elective treatments have been delayed in the last 12 months? So do you see them coming to, let's say, adversely affect your combined ratio?
See, it will for sure. It has already started to impact. In fact, even between the first and the second wave, there was a period of normalizing. Q3 last year, if you really see, it was almost normal and going up to almost February. I think from November to February last year was as good as, a good bounce back which we saw. And most of the people who have been waiting for surgeries really went to the hospital to get the backlog cleared. The distinct thing which I clearly see is that people are obviously more aware of their medical illness and will like to go for surgeries. The second thing is the cost of the surgeries, the charges, they have significantly increased. And if you ask me, it is not just about the number of claims, it is the cost per claim. And both put together, we are witnessing almost 20, 30, 40% increase in, the claims cost. Unfortunately, insurance companies cannot go and change the price of premiums willfully. They have to follow a 3-year waiting period as per IRDA's filing news guidelines. And to my mind, within this period of 3 years, if an ad hoc event like COVID takes place, it is completely on to the insurance company to handle it. So I think some of the companies will have to bear it as it emerges, and then only the price increases can be utilized. Even price increases is not like that you can go and charge what you like. You have to really build it in a staggered way. And to my mind, again, the debates on the quantum of price increases have also started to happen. So it's a very evolving situation. We need to see how to really measure this up. On one side, we don't want to inconvenience the policyholder with price increases. At the same time, we want the policyholders to get the best of the coverages, best of the treatments, best of the sum insureds. You know, you don't want to give things in between. So these are classical chicken and egg situation. Insurance companies for sure have proven that they have paid much more than the premium they have received. So I think there is a good case for us to also get the compensation so that we can protect the overall policyholders' interest in the long run.
Okay. So you're saying it's not just the surgeries or the treatments which are now coming up, even the cost per item has gone up significantly, and that probably at 20 to 40% is a very large figure actually. If you see the overall premiums.
You are in the rating agency. You know very well what has been the profitability of all the hospital companies, and I'm sure you can make out by what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. We have a lot of hospital companies withdrawing rating because they prepaid all the loans. So that is one collateral. But yeah, a lot of people are actually taken up new construction, or at least refurbishing the existing places and improving those places.
See, the problem in our environment is that we have health insurance as a regulated product and priced with a 3-year moratorium, if you ask me on the experience. On the other hand, the costs are open-ended. At the end of the day, insurance company reimburses the cost which a customer incurs. It is not responsible for the cost. And the people who are charging the cost have no regulations or no criteria. There is no justification why two hospitals which exist next to each other will have significant variance in cost. There could be a degree of variance, but why should there be a significant variance? So, you know, the thing what is essential is to run an organized thing, it has to be end-to-end organized. It cannot be bits and pieces. And today, many of the critical questions which insurers face is because our hands are tied behind. If we do not choose the cost, then how do we say that we can't choose premiums? So this is a tough situation to handle. But as I said, these are still early days. There is a lot of awareness which is getting created. There is a lot of discussions taking place at different forums. And I'm sure more evolving and appropriate thing will come out. It's nobody's interest to kill insurance companies. End of the day, insurance company is the sum of premiums received from a policyholder. So it is the same policyholder on one side vis-a-vis, you know, the hospitals or healthcare system on the other side. I don't think insurance company, we are parcels. We manage the things professionally, but we don't manufacture, we don't supply, we carry it out.
Correct. So given this, what is your plan or strategy for moving towards the break-even, reducing the combined ratio, moving towards the underwriting break-even or profit? Like internationally, we understand that the combined ratio is generally below 100%. So how do you think we'll be able to move out here? Now the ranges obviously are very wide, but how do you think we'll be able to move below a 100% figure?
So I think, what is likely to emerge is multiple steps. It is not that only the price is good enough for us to really.
Video.
Sorry.
Mr. Anil Kumar?
Yeah, sorry, some technology related issues. I'm still.
Good. Nice to have you back because Mr. Rakesh is doing all the batting and the fielding himself. So
no, thanks, Rakesh. I'm sincerely sorry for this. Some technology related, I was struggling with mobile, everything. I don't know. Not a great day on that front, let me admit.
Yeah. So Mr. Rakesh Jain was describing on how would probably the Indian companies also be moving towards reducing the combined ratio to say less than 100%. What could be the way ahead, or what could be the strategy? Yes, sir. Mr. Rakesh Jain, please.
Okay.
So I think first and foremost is a lot of insurance companies in the last few years, they have built up risk-based models and extensive use of digitization, process automation distribution on, automated platforms. That has significantly improved. So 20 years back when I came into insurance, the foremost thing was how many offices we will open, how quickly we will open, how many people we will hire. I think in the last year and a half, everything has just got inverted. So most of the people have digitized more rampantly than what we would. You'll be surprised to know, Sanjay, that our level of digital adoption today will be amongst the best anywhere in the world as insurers. The only thing we need to harness now is that how do we connect this with, our consumers? How do we build the data profiles? Because at the end of the day, these are products which you have to do it well. So I think the COVID experience or any experience, any catastrophe of any type, eventually gets built into the business models, and people try to, see this as a pass-through mechanism, which also significantly improves the claims ratio and brings it back. Efficiency through digitization will reduce the expense ratios. And overall growth in health or growth in motor, growth in crop, everything gives us an opportunity to also bring a lot of efficiencies at the synergy level at the company. So multi-line company like us in online, one of the reasons why we were able to keep our head high over water, even in COVID, was because there are multiple lines we do. Even if one line really comes under pressure, there were others to really help you out, support you out. So I think diversification of risk has become a big, motto for us. And we want to be diversified across healthy, good segments, build up the right business models, build up data analytics. And I think from a long-term standpoint, for sure, we will be coming under 100. But in the near term, obviously, it's a bit of an investment and evolution. I don't think anybody is scared or worried about it.
Okay. So welcome, Mr. Anil Kumar. So the question we had, what is the view on the premium rates increase going forward? How much do you think would be the immediate impact or the long-term impact of the combined ratio being, let's say, significantly higher than 100% as it is now?
I think I completely agree with Rakesh that as companies, we start investing in the business and we start growing, it will take for some time for companies to get below 100%. I think the point that he touched upon is absolutely bang on in terms of, I completely agree with him on the digitization front, right? On the premium rate increase, firstly, my view is that strongly that there will be pressure as far as premium rates are concerned, because what's happening in the market clearly is that there is more awareness, right, in terms of as from a customer standpoint is concerned, right? And obviously now customers are making, I would say that more claims, which is good actually from a customer perspective, because there is maturity in the market as far as awareness of the product is concerned, right? And inflation is something which is not going to go away, right? I don't think we can rule that out completely as from an inflation perspective. And incidence and severity is also there, and severity is actually becoming, I would say it is increasing, let me put it that way, right? And so given that front, I do expect what you call it as, I don't think there could be downward trends as far as premium rates are concerned. Definitely once you start looking at from an international perspective, you look at risk-based capital and things like that, you could see an elements of easing of capital. But the fact is that COVID has clearly shown us at least one thing for us, a lot of unknowns, right? And the frequency at which pandemics are now coming in, right? And the speed at which communication is happening, the communicable disease is also happening, right? I believe that there's a lot of unknown. In fact, to be very honest, I think we have to discover a lot of things, right? And also I would say that with human mobility and people moving from one place to another, the rate at which diseases are spreading, right? So to that extent, I still believe that there is stress from what do you call it as, from a claim experience. I think that will be there. And so I definitely believe that there will be pressure. And of course, at the end of the day, we are in a competitive market. So from a customer perspective, I think competition will definitely help in that there is a check-in, I would say, as far as how prices evolve, but there is definitely going to be increase in the medium to long term. And even if you look at what's happening around all of us with climate change, with pollution, right? A lot of things are happening around, right? So in terms of diseases, in terms of floods, in terms of pandemic, in terms of viral fevers, right? And now more people are going for insurance and coverage, right? So I believe that rates will see what you call it as an increase. I don't think we can look at lower rates for sure.
Okay, no, not good news for many of us. Obviously, with the peak combined ratios going the way they are, some rating.
But combined ratio, as I told you that over a period of time for the industry, I think it will come down, as Rakesh pointed out, is that once we get scale, I think we'll be able to go below 100%. Because one thing, there are two components, right? One is the claim ratio and the other one is the expenses, right? If you look at international markets, typically the claim ratio settles at around, in a very mature markets, around 80% odd levels, right? And if you look at what do they have for expenses, is pretty less at around 12 to 15%. Whereas look at the Indian market, the fact is that we are investing. So obviously our expense initially is going to be high because as we are in an acquisition speed. Because in the mature markets, growth is not coming from new customer acquisition, right? It is more coming from increase in premium rates rather than inflation and increase in premium.
Okay. So, Mr. Rakesh, and you touched upon very strongly on digitalization. So, digitalization, there are two questions we have. So, one is in as concerned the health industry, health insurance industry. What would be the key area now of digitalization? Would it be business? Would it be claims? Would it be analytics? Or would it be cost efficiency?
I think we are in a very early stage in an essence. It is all. I don't think there is a need for us to only look at one side. I think digital is way of life. I remember, 10 years back when once we had constructed a product and we would have filed it with our regulator and got the approval, then we would call our IT departments and tell them now we need to create a process. From that environment today in 10 years, now we first think which is the way we are going to handle a customer, how we are going to deliver a promise. And we say, okay, this is the product we should construct. So in some sense, digital is something which has become the mainstay for most of the companies to do their business. So it is a business strategy more than, just saying that we have automated ourselves and become efficient. What is equally happening is it is also an automation of the entire ecosystem. So when you say distribution, it's not just about the insurance company and its portal. It is also about its partners. It is also about the web sales. It is also about the agents. It is also about the banks. It is also about the consumers which each of these partners own, and then linking with labs, hospitals put together. So I think the entire ecosystem today is coming together and the dots are getting connected. So we are in a connected world. And hence, digitization will happen all across from distribution to claims. As insurance companies, our objective is to be as real time as possible because it's contingency management. The key product of an insurance company is claim. Policy is a document, it's a promise, but at the end of the day, the claim is the product. And generally, if you pick up health, 1 in 12, 1 in 13 customer will have a claim every year. If you take a motor, it will be 1 in 5 will have a claim. So it is a high claims prone, what I will say, business, rather a contingency or intervention based environment. If you don't measure up on a real time basis, it again flat. So once we grow in size, there was no way brick and mortar or semi or hybrid models can stay. You have to have digital as an approach, and that is what we are all trying to do. Huge amount of investments have been made by us also in creating the right architecture. Our servers are in the cloud. We are using AWS system. We are also ensuring that we have enough data storages to run analytics on real-time basis so the quotes can be given on the spot. We are integrating the data in such a way that we can avoid the undesirable risks. So I think all these things put together, if you really see our architecture issues, data decoupling are taking place. My sense is over a period of time, customer analytics will continue to grow. The only impediment is we still don't have enough data. We have some data and we have some hypotheses blended together. And that is where, it's a evolution. I think overall, I would say that it's an improving scenario. That is why we are all so optimistic.
Okay, I think you partly answered the second question. So my second question was actually, have we reached any optimum level of digitalization, or is that still a long way away?
Have we understood the customer well, or is it long way away? I guess that will be the way to answer this question. But a lot of things, I will say comes with awareness. You see, a lot of people in the past were not sharing information about their health. It was a very standard practice to disclose minimum information and take a policy. If you really see, one of the most significant reforms IRDA did was that it says even if a pre-existing disease is disclosed by a customer and an insurance company agrees to take it, then after 4 years that is also covered. So in some ways, customers have been comforted enough. I think we are moving towards an environment where an exchange of information will become more and more transparent. And we will obviously look at digitization as a way of enhancing this transparency, enhancing the confidentiality also, and giving that comfort that if you share with us, we will be able to give you better service and prompt, responses. So I think it's an ongoing exercise. It will be appropriate to say that this journey will perhaps not end, in our lifetimes for sure.
That's a very interesting. So probably when India and Pakistan become friends, by that time this would have gone over.
Maybe.
Yeah. So Mr. Anil Kumar, how much could be the requirement of capital for the industry for future growth, and what do you think would be the indicative proportion of various sources for this year?
I think, Ricky put an interesting question, let me put it that way. Right? I think the point is that I think from a capital perspective, I think if you look at the market size, if you look at last year FY21, the health insurance market was close to 58,000 crores, right? And that was the size of the market. And I clearly believe that the market will continue to grow at a very healthy rate in the next 2 to 3 years, right? Even if we look at retail, growth will be, at least I would believe, in the region of 18 to 20%, right? So given that one at a 58,000 crores of market size and companies growing incrementally, I believe that purely to fund growth and to meet solvency requirement alone, there will be easily a capital requirement of at least another 3,000 odd crores in my view, right? But the reality is that how I think your sources, I think you're referring to what will be the mode of funding for these factors, right? I think it will vary from company to company in terms of the routes that companies choose. But the fact is that either through internal accruals or equity capital infusion, but if I were to restrict myself and talk about our own company in terms of how do you look at funding the opportunities for growth, we are clearly looking at capital infusion, right, in the next 3 to 4 years, primarily through the equity route, right, and dependence on debt will be a little lower, but we'll definitely look at an option to raise through the debt market as well, and but primarily through the capital infusion through the equity route. That's where we're looking at, and we will continue to need capital. I can tell you, sure, for the next 3 to 4 years, because as a company, the way in which we are growing, we will definitely need capital, and I believe that that holds good for many companies because the market is ripe for growth, and I clearly estimate that. Just for meeting solvency requirements, there could be easily almost 3,000 to 4,000 crores of capital requirement.
Okay. So you're saying that given the tremendous growth opportunity, the internal accruals would be pretty insufficient, and as it is, you have high.
Absolutely, it will vary from company. Absolutely, it will vary from company to at what stage they are in, what is their financial strength. So it will be through a combination of internal accruals, fresh capital infusion, or tapping the debt markets as well.
Good. And so coming back to the health insurance industry, so what kind of innovations could there be on new products? I mean, especially let's say customized health offerings or something, insurance offerings or something. How do you see the industry going ahead?
I think definitely, I mean, as good as the customer and the market is maturing, right? I think the way in which companies have to look at innovation is that you have to start from an innovation standpoint, you have to assess customer health and lifestyle at the stage of customer onboarding itself. I think that's the most important one. You can't look at a single customer, you have to look at cohorts, right, and see that how do you look at that. And during the course of what you call it as the tenure itself, how do you have a continuous offering looking at wellness support, right? And how can you have focused intervention in terms of customers so that we start looking at products? And also, how do we start linking what we call it as tracking the customer's lifestyle and physical activity and things like, for example, an activity tracker, how does he practice the gym, and how do you link all those things and start looking at offering discounts and better rates for the customers. I think, we have to look at all these aspects, especially from a lifestyle and a wellness aspect, and look at cohorts and see that how can we bring in innovation. And in fact, some of products that we have designed, at least in the last year, have factored in some of the elements which I just talked about a little.
So recently in health insurance, there has been another discussion that this industry works significantly on scale and the winner takes it all. So what is your take on that?
When you say winner takes it all, what exactly are you referring to?
So the buzz in the market is that the winner will probably get a significantly disproportionate share of the market and hence the profitability and the capital compared to the rest, because generally we've seen the industry has had, most of the players have charted their own course and they have done well over the period, especially in the general life insurance. But in health, they say there is a network effect and the winner takes it all is a very relevant concept. So how do you see this?
See, the fact is that I can speak, for example, the way in which at least we are going through this particular space, right, is that there is enough opportunity in the market for all companies to grow, right? It's all in terms of how you want to capitalize on this particular opportunity, right? And how well prepared are you to grab this particular opportunity, right? And as long as you have all your levers of growth and the foundation put in place, I think there is enough place for companies to, what you call it as, continue to operate profitability. And as I told you, it varies from company to company. I think the way in which we are positioned, I can look at the market is that companies who have the strategies in place with a focus on execution. And I would say that focus, especially given the fact that we are focusing on health, there is enough in the market for companies to, and not to be bothered about the winner part of it.
So, but is the profitability significantly dependent on the scale, or like you can keep building up the scale and the profitability continue to grow along with your scale?
So absolutely. See, for example, you have to start looking at the book and the new book and the renewal book separately. I think that's where the scale element comes in, right? The focus is going to be on persistency as far as the organization is concerned. If you were to look at a steady state, right? If you were to look at the renewal book, let me just put it as a benchmark, right? Where do you want to operate as a company, right? You have to roughly operate around 94-95% combined. I think that's where, from a long-term perspective, purely from a renewal book, where you're looking at. So the journey is that how do you reach there? But the fact is that you have to grow the business, right? And growth is towards profitability. You're growing the business to achieve profitability, right? And over a period of time is that how do you keep your expenses also under control through a combination of attaining scale, look at cost structures, and the point that Rakesh mentioned earlier also, make use of technology and digitize the whole process to bring in efficiencies as well, right? So the fact is that when you're with a focus on all these three things, I think profitability will be able to, the company should be able to achieve over a period of time. I've told you that it's important to start looking at the stickiness of the portfolio, right? In terms of how is your renewal book is going to be, because I think that's going to be the crucial part of it, because given the fact that your acquisition cost in the initial year is quite high, it's important that you have a renewal book which is quite healthy, right? And that's going to be a key contributor. As I told you, over a period of time, as the market matures, your loss ratio will settle at a region which will be closer to 65-70%, and expenses, I believe that have to operate at almost not more than 20-22%.
Okay.
That's going to be the challenge for every company, I would say, that in terms of how do we operate.
Okay. Yeah, nice. Because we have seen some activity in the markets with regard to health insurance in the recent days. And so we have seen all sorts of commentaries coming in. So that's a very nice perspective. So one last question from my side for both of you. So I'll start with Mr. Rakesh Jain. So what do you see as the key challenges or the issue for the health insurance industry going forward?
I think the most important challenge for a health insurance industry will be, while growth is more or less a given, how do you balance your risks? because this event is clearly led across the world, people evaluating the capital models, people evaluating the risk models, and obviously availability of capital cannot be presumed. Profitability also is something which you cannot achieve over the next 1 or 2 years if it is a very significant event. It's a gradual process which comes back. So I think the entire risk-based model has come for a critical evaluation. In an environment like India where growth is high, this becomes a more challenging thing. Otherwise it would have been a 3 to 5% growth environment. Here it will be 30, 40, 50% for some of them. The other thing is data is not available enough. A lot of new companies are coming and jumping in presumption that they can do as well as others. There's also a catch-up mindset which happens. Obviously the success of SAHI companies is pretty envious. So many of the companies will follow that with an intent that they can do the same thing, maybe in a shorter space of time. Many of these assumptions, frankly speaking, are as good as big event coming and disrupting. The third big element is many companies are getting listed, and there is clearly going to be a emerging backdrop of policyholders versus shareholder in the mindset of every company. How do you really play on? One person wants service and this thing, the other person obviously wants a good, profitable, rewarding business model. It's not an easy model to straddle with. Health insurance is perhaps the most social product which you are handling, and it is not individual companies' prerogative. You have to also go how the environment of the ecosystem really looks at it. And I think overall profitability in the industry has been a tough thing. It's not been an easy thing. So India needs to mature itself to have enough profits or enough capital at its disposal. So companies are becoming efficient, but at the end of the day, they are not as strong as many of the banks. Like just an example, or maybe some of the other financial services space are. So this is a young industry. It needs to build up its reserves. Unfortunately, the industry has also been besieged by multiple types of events. So it's a quite a multi-dimensional, challenging environment. But indeed, it's a very opportune environment. So I'm not sulking about it. I'm only saying that it needs to be handled in the best possible way and with a long-term objective in mind.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Anil Kumar.
I think, I pick from where Rakesh mentioned is that I think growth is important and equally important is profitability. And I think the moment of truth for a health insurance company is settling of claims, right? And the fact is that from a customer standpoint and from a shareholder perspective, the crucial point is that how do we grow the business at the same time achieve profitability? I think that's something going to be a big requirement because companies are looking at growth, and obviously, you can't take your eye away from profitability because there is going to be implications as far as capital is concerned. And I think that's going to be the big element, and which is the reason I kept on. I just mentioned the point earlier as well. It's important to keep the customer at the forefront and start looking at the quality of acquisition, right? And look at the renewal book, I think, which is the most important part of it, right? Because that's the one which is going to take care of your growth cost, right? And unless you're able to reduce leakage and what it does improve persistency, right? Companies will have challenges as far as achieving profitability, and growth will come at a cost, and there's going to be pressure on the shareholders and investors as far as funding is concerned. I think that's something that as companies we have to be very careful and keep that in top of our minds.
Okay. Oh, some questions have come here. Do you think standard products will help drive increasing adoption of health insurance, or do you think it's the customized products which will do that? Mr. Anil Kumar, I think you can take it and then.
So I think one thing definitely for sure is that I think both works. I think you have to look at customer by customer very differently, right? Standard vanilla product to eliminate what you call it as reduces the complexity in the minds of one set of customers, right? And the other one is that I've told you that you can't customize for every individual customer, right? That's very difficult. So you have to start looking at cohorts of customers and see that how do you look at a particular cohort. A customer as a segment of one is very difficult, though it will be easy for us to say. It will be nice to say that you look at each and every customer and then look at that, but that would be, I would say, a little stretching. I mean, a bit beyond. I would say that it's important to start looking at cohorts and customize accordingly.
Another question which has come, I don't know whether you'd like to take it up. So I think Mr. Rakesh can have a look at it. They're saying that what would be the reaction or takeaway from the Star Health IPO? I think that's where the people are more interested.
We have all matured ourselves, that's all. It's part of maturity curve. But all said and done, Star Health has created a phenomenal story in the last 15 years. And I must compliment the company and its management for having thought about this model ahead of many general insurance companies who always had the ability to do it. Having said that, every insurance is not something which is like which cannot be seen and felt. So most of us have realized that it's an area which needs to be invested upon and built upon, and it's a rewarding area in the long run. You get customers associated. This is what we need. We want to be a consumer-rich company. So I think health insurance has become a focal point for all the companies now. So Star Health's achievement is indeed an inspiration for many of us to really set up the model. I think irrespective, I think both general insurance, health insurance, everybody is going to grow in this country. So anybody who's invested with an insurance company is going to get a compounding outcome. Maybe perhaps the best in the entire financial services space.
Okay. So there's another question.
In fact, I think the Star thing is I think it's a positive development for the industry, right? For a standalone health insurance company to achieve over 10,000 crores of premium income, I think is a phenomenal. I think to that extent, I think we completely admire and respect the fact that what they have achieved in the market. I think that's something which is very, very good for the industry. In fact, I think they've taken the lead and tapped the market. And I think, we have to appreciate and respect competition here, and positive about what's happened with Star.
Okay. So another question has been that probably Mr. Anil Kumar can answer it, that generally market in India we have these standardized, let's say, solvency requirements from the health insurance company like it is for the general insurance companies. So do you think that's an appropriate model for the regulators, or would you suggest that probably that should we have given the COVID experience that we should have a relook at it?
I tell you, it's a very technical one. It's a little tricky one, but let me clarify. Purely from a health insurance standpoint, we believe that 150% solvency margins are on the higher side. Let me put it that way, right? Because for that's something we have been discussing internally and within certain forums as well. We strongly believe that there is a need for us to relook into the solvency as far as especially from an health insurance industry company's perspective. We have to move towards a risk-based capital approach. And I think to that extent, I believe that 150% is quite, I don't want to mince words, but the fact is 150% is quite a high requirement. And but that's the current requirement, and we go with that. We operate at significantly higher at 160 odd percentage, but definitely there is room for us to relook at solvency.
And I think we have come to probably it's 5 o'clock, so we've now come to the end of this session. So it's a very engaging session, Mr. Rakesh and Mr. Anil Kumar. Quite a lot of takeaways, but I think the key takeaway and the general consensus seems to be that at least 20% is for the next 5 years. Compounded annual growth rate for the industry seems to be around, and means we have a high, let's say, combined ratio right now, but the combined ratio would probably over a period of time, I would not guess the period, but it should come down to, let's say, less than 95% or something. Again, quite a lot of discussion on digitalization. While it's significantly higher, Mr. Rakesh Jain said that probably globally, if you see insurance companies in India among the best performers in terms of digitalization. But again, in the same breath, he said that we still have a long way to go because it's of a network effect which has to work. And the capital requirements, obviously, the discussion can continue endlessly as we are rating agencies. That's what we are primarily concerned with. We obviously look at the direction from the regulators and the industry players on how they think about various aspects. But that remains a very key impact area for us. And probably we can keep discussing so much enriching thoughts which have come out in the last 1 hour. But we thank you all very much for agreeing to be a part of our show. And we also thank all the participants and the team in CARE who's helped me in delivering this. And wish you all a very good luck.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you for inviting me to the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining in. Have a wonderful day.